Today, I have Courage the Cowardly Dog. Good Omens is what we're reading. Good Omens with my cute plant bookmark. So without further ado, here's me in my bad mood. Oh, did I take my meds? So we are on page 60. Good Omens. So far, the end of the world has started. Armageddon, the first steps. Crowley is one of the characters. He is the fallen angel, the demon now. He's kind of buddies with Aziraphale, who is an angel, and they're both on Earth. We just ended, or the last time we ended in like a little conversation they were having, but Crowley dropped off the baby at this nunnery, which was a satanic nunnery. They switched up the babies on accident. So the Antichrist was supposed to go to this American attaché, and the other couple that's there, that's also having a baby that night, they were supposed to keep their baby. It's Deirdre Young and Mr. Young is what they call him. I'm sure we'll figure out his first name. So they had a baby, and their baby ended up getting switched out with the Antichrist. Again, total accident. Total miscommunication on everyone's part. Well, not everyone's. The demon and the Satanist nuns. Miscommunication. Another character, thing, noun, that's been brought up is the book, capital T-H-E, capital B-O-O-K. And that is like, it's a prophetic book that was written, so much seafood gumbo, no one giving a damn. Same with gorillas. Whoops, they say, sky gone all red, stars crashing to ground. What they putting in the bananas these days? And then they make nests, you know, gorillas, said the angel, Aziraphale, pouring another drink and managing to hit the glass on the third go. Nah, God's truth, saw a film, nests. That's birds, said Crowley. Nests, insisted Aziraphale. Crowley decided not to argue the point. There you are then, he said. All creatures great and small. Great and small. Lots of them with brains, and then bazam. But you're part of it, said Aziraphale. You tempt people. You're good at it. Crowley thumped his glass on the table. That's different. They don't have to say yes. That's the ineffable bit, right? Your side made it up. You've got to keep testing people, but not to destruction. All right. I don't like it any more than you. But I told you, I can't not do what I'm told. I'm an angel. There's no theaters in heaven, said Crowley, and very few films. Don't you try to tempt me, said Aziraphale wretchedly. I know you old serpent. Just you think about it, said Crowley relentlessly. You know what eternity is? You know what eternity is? I mean, do you know what eternity is? There's this big mountain, see, a mile high, at the end of the universe. And once every 1,000 years, there's this little bird. What little bird? Said Aziraphale suspiciously. This little bird I'm talking about, and every 1,000 years, the same bird every 1,000 years? Crowley hesitated. Yeah, he said. Bloody ancient bird, then. Okay, and every 1,000 years, this bird limps, flies all the way to do this mountain and sharpens its beak. Hold on. You can't do that. Between here and the end of the universe, there's loads of... The angel waved a hand expansively, if a little unsteadily. Loads of bugger all, dear boy. But it gets there anyway, Crowley persevered. How? It doesn't matter. It could use a spaceship, said the angel. Crowley subsided a bit. Yeah, he said, if you like. Anyway, this bird. Only it is the end of the universe we're talking about, said Aziraphale. So it'd have to be one of those spaceships where your descendants are the ones who get out at the other end. You have to tell your descendants, you say. When you get to the mountain, you've got to. He hesitated. What have they got to do? Sharpen its beak on the mountain, said Crowley. and then it flies back in the spaceship, and after 1,000 years it goes and does it all again, said Crowley quickly. There was a moment of drunken silence. Seems a lot of effort just to sharpen a beak, mused Aziraphale. Listen, said Crowley urgently. The point is that when the bird has worn the mountain down to nothing, right? Then, as Aziraphale opened his mouth, Crowley just knew he was going to make some point about the relative hardness of birds' beaks and granite mountains, and plunged on quickly. Then you still won't have finished watching The Sound of Music. Aziraphale froze. And you'll enjoy it, Crowley said relentlessly. You really will. My dear boy, you won't have a choice. Listen, heaven has no taste. Now, and not one single sushi restaurant. A look of pain crossed the angel's suddenly very serious face. I can't cope with this I can't cope with this while I'm drunk, he said. I'm going to sober up. Me too. They both winced as the alcohol left their bloodstreams and sat up a bit more neatly. Aziraphale straightened his tie. I can't interfere with divine plans, he croaked. Crowley looked speculatively into his glass and then filled it again. What about diabolical ones, he said. Pardon? Well, it's got to be a diabolical plan, hasn't it? We're doing it. My side. But it's all part of the overall divine plan, said Aziraphale. Your side can't do anything without it being part of the ineffable divine plan. He added with a trace of smugness. You wish. No, that's the... Aziraphale snapped his fingers irritably. The thing. What'd you call it in your colorful idiom? The line at the bottom? The bottom line? Yes, it's that. Well, if you're sure, said Crowley. No doubt about it. Crowley looked up slyly. Then you can't be certain, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't be certain that thwarting it isn't part of the divine plan too. I mean, you're supposed to thwart the wiles of the evil one at every turn, aren't you? Aziraphale hesitated. There's that, yeah. Yes. You see a wile, you thwart. Am I right? Broadly. Actually, I encourage humans to do the actual thwarting because of ineffability, you understand? Right. So all you've got to do is thwart, because if I know anything, said Crowley urgently, it's that the birth is just the start. It's the upbringing that's important. It's the influences. Otherwise, the child will never learn to use its powers, he hesitated. At least not necessarily as intended. Certainly our side won't mind me thwarting you, said Aziraphale thoughtfully. They won't mind that at all. Right. It'd be a real feather in your wing, Crowley gave the angel an encouraging smile. What will happen to the child if it doesn't get a satanic upbringing, though, said Aziraphale. Probably nothing. It'll never know. But genetics, don't tell me from genetics. What have they got to do with it, said Crowley. Look at Satan. Created as an angel, grows up to be the great adversary. Hey, if you're going to go on about genetics, you might as well say the kid will grow up to be an angel. After all, his father was really big in heaven in the old days. Saying he'll grow up to be a demon just because his dad became one is like saying a mouse with its tail cut off will give birth to tailless mice. No. Upbringing is everything. Take it from me. And without unopposed satanic influences, well, at worst hell will have to start all over again. And the earth gets at least another 11 years. That's got to be worth something, hasn't it? Now Aziraphale was looking thoughtful again. You're saying the child isn't evil of itself, he said slowly. Potentially evil. Potentially good too, I suppose. Just this huge, powerful potentiality waiting to be shaped, said Crowley. He shrugged. Anyway, why are we talking about this good and evil? They're just names for sides. We know that. I suppose it's got to be worth a try, said the angel. Crowley nodded encouragingly. Agreed, said the demon, holding out his hand. The angel shook it, cautiously. It'll certainly be more interesting than saints, he said, and it'll be for the child's own good in the long run, said Crowley. We'll be godfathers, sort of. Overseeing his religious upbringing, you might say. Aziraphale beamed. You know, I'd never have thought of that, he said. Godfathers. Well, I'll be damned. It's not too bad, said Crowley, when you get used to it. See, that's so cute. That's why I say they're buddies, because they've been going through this whole thing together for centuries, for the entirety of the existence of Earth. And they're so cute together. I bet you there's fan fiction between Aziraphale and Crowley. My sister said I can't read fan fiction on screen. I still have to look into it because I don't think I quite believe her. But that's okay. That's for another day. But they are cute. It's interesting that they can, they can instantly sober up too. Like, trying to understand how their body works and stuff is probably not something that this book is going to get into. But it's questions. It's questions I have. She was known as Scarlet. At that time, she was selling arms, although it was beginning to lose its savor. She never stuck at one job for very long. 300-400 years at the outside. You didn't want to get in a rut. Her hair was true auburn, neither ginger nor brown, but a deep and burnished copper color, and it fell to her waist in tresses that men would kill for, and indeed often had. Her eyes were a startling orange. She looked 25 and always had. She had a dusty brick-red truck full of assorted weaponry, and an almost unbelievable skill at getting it across any border in the world. She had been on her way to a small West African country, where a minor civil war was in progress, to make a delivery which would, with any luck, turn it into a major civil war. Unfortunately, the truck had broken down, far beyond even her ability to repair it, and she was very good with machinery these days. She was in the middle of a city, asterisk. Nominally a city, it was the size of an English county town, or translated into American terms, a shopping mall. See, they're funny. They're funny with it. She was in the middle of a city at the time. The city in question was the capital of Kumbolaland. An African nation which had been at peace for the last 3,000 years. For about 30 years, it was Sir Humphrey Clarkson land. But since the country had absolutely no mineral wealth and the strategic importance of a banana, it was accelerated towards self-government with almost unseemly haste. Fucking capitalism, dude. Kumbola land was poor, perhaps, and undoubtedly boring, but peaceful. Its various tribes who got along with one another quite happily had long since beaten their swords into plowshares. A fight had broken out in the city square in 1952 between a drunken ox drover and an equally drunken ox thief. People were still talking about it. Scarlet yawned in the heat. She fanned her head with her broad-brimmed hat, left the useless truck in the dusty street, and wandered into a bar. She bought a can of beer, drained it, then grinned at the barman. "I got a truck needs repairing," she said. "Anyone around I can talk to?" The barman grinned, white and huge and expansively. He'd been impressed by the way she drank her beer. "Only Nathan, miss. But Nathan has gone back to Kaunda to see his father-in-law's farm." Scarlet bought another beer. "So this Nathan, any idea when he'll be back?" "Perhaps next week, perhaps 2 weeks' time, dear lady." "Oh, that Nathan, he is a scamp, no?" He leaned forward. "You traveling alone, miss?" he said. "Yes." "Could be dangerous. Some funny people on the roads these days. Bad men. Not local boys," he added quickly. Scarlet raised a perfect eyebrow. Despite the heat, he shivered. "Thanks for the warning," Scarlet purred. Her voice sounded like something that lurks in the long grass, visible only by the twitching of its ears until something young and tender wobbles by. She tipped her hat to him and strolled outside. The hot African sun beat down on her. Her truck sat in the street with a cargo of guns and ammunition and landmines. It wasn't going anywhere. Scarlet stared at the truck. A vulture was sitting on its roof. It had traveled 300 miles with Scarlet so far. It was belching quietly. She looked around the street. A couple of women chatted on a street corner. A bored market vendor sat in front of a heap of colored gourds, fanning the flies. A few children played lazily in the dust. "What the hell," she said quietly. "I could do with a holiday anyway." That was Wednesday. By Friday, the city was a no-go area. By the following Tuesday, the economy of Kambola land was shattered. 20,000 people were dead, including the barman, shot by the rebels while storming the market barricades. Almost 100,000, oh my gosh. 20,000 people were dead, including the barman, shot by the rebels while storming the market barricades. Almost 100,000 people were injured. All of Scarlet's assorted weapons had fulfilled the function for which they had been created, and the vulture had died of fatty degeneration. Scarlet was already on the last train out of the country. It was time to move on, she felt. She'd been doing arms for too damn long. She wanted a change, something with openings. She quite fancied herself as a newspaper journalist. A possibility. She fanned herself with her hat and crossed her long legs in front of her. Farther down the train, a fight broke out. Scarlet grinned. People were always fighting, over her and around her. It was rather sweet, really. Sable had black hair, a trim black beard, and he had just decided to go corporate. He did drinks with his accountant. "How we doing, Franny?" he asked her. 12 million copies sold so far. Can you believe that? They were doing drinks in a restaurant called Top of the Sixes on the top of 666 Fifth Avenue, New York. There was something that amused Sable ever so slightly. From the restaurant windows, you could see the whole of New York. At night, the rest of New York could see the huge red 666s that adorned all four sides of the building. Of course, it was just another street number. If you started counting, you'd be bound to get to it eventually, but you had to smile. Sable and his accountant had just come from a small, expansive, and particularly exclusive restaurant in Greenwich Village, where the cuisine was entirely nouvelle. A string bean, a pea, and a sliver of chicken breast, aesthetically arranged on a square china plate. Sable had invented it last time he'd been in Paris. His accountant had polished her meat and two veg off in under 50 seconds, and had spent the rest of the meal staring at the plate, the cutlery, and from time to time at her fellow diners, in a manner that suggested that she was wondering what they'd taste like, which was in fact and had spent the rest of the meal staring at the plate, the cutlery, and from time to time at her fellow diners, in a manner that suggested that she was wondering what they'd taste like, which was in fact the case. It had amused Sable enormously. He toyed with his Perrier. 12 million, huh? That's pretty good. That's great. So we're going corporate. It's time to blow the big one, am I right? California, I think. I want factories, restaurants, the whole schmear. We'll keep the publishing arm, but it's time to diversify, yeah? Franny nodded. Sounds good, Sable. She was interrupted by a skeleton. A skeleton in a Dior dress with tan skin stretched almost to a snapping point over the delicate bones of the skull. The skeleton had long blonde hair and perfectly made-up lips. She looked like the person mothers around the world point to, muttering, "That's what'll happen to you if you don't eat your greens." She looked like a famine relief poster with style. She was New York's top fashion model, and she was holding a book. She said, excuse me, Mr. Sable, I hope you don't mind me intruding, but your book, it changed my life. I was wondering, would you mind signing it for me?" She stared imploringly at him with eyes deep sunk in gloriously eyeshadowed sockets. Sable nodded graciously and took the book from her. It was not surprising that she had recognized him for his dark gray eyes, stared out from his photo on the foil embossed cover. Foodless Dieting. Slim Yourself Beautiful, the book was called. The diet book of the century. Ew. "How do you spell your name?" he asked. "Cheryl. 2 R's, 1 Y, 1 L. "You remind me of an old friend," he told her, as he wrote swiftly and carefully on the title page. "There you go. Glad you liked it. Always good to meet a fan." What he'd written was this: "Cheryl, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Revelation 6:6. Dr. Raven Sable. It's from the Bible, he told her. She closed the book reverently and backed away from the table, thanking Sable. He didn't know how much this meant to her. He had changed her life, truly, he had. He had never actually earned the medical degree he claimed, since there hadn't been any universities in those days, but Sable could see she was starving to death. He gave her a couple of months at the outside, foodless. Handle your weight problem, terminally. Franny was stabbing at her laptop computer hungrily, planning the next phase in Sable's transformation of the eating habits of the Western world. Okay, see, this is what so many female artists have been creating artworks depicting, but the person that comes to mind right now, because we've been listening to her music on streams, is Paris Paloma. I can't think of the song, but Billie Eilish is another popular artist who has some works songs about it. TV is a good song. Paris Paloma, shit. As Good a Reason. As Good a Reason. I have it on repeat a lot, and I played it on this stream like multiple times. That when you hate your body and you hate yourself, those ugly old rich men are making money off of you. As Good a Reason. We should actually, I'm gonna reread this part, and then we're gonna listen to this friggin' song. As Good a Reason, Paris Paloma. So this dude was just saying, what's his name? Sable. How he wrote this book, Foodless Dieting, Slim Yourself Beautiful. And then his fan walks up. She looks like a skeleton with skin stretched over her. Here it is. She was interrupted by a skeleton in a Dior dress with tan skin stretched almost to a snapping point over the delicate bones of the skull. She was New York's top fashion model, and she was holding a book. It was his book. She was asking for a signature. Sable could see she was starving to death. He gave her a couple of months at the outside. Foodless. Handle your weight problem. Terminally.
I met a woman with lips so red, a face so lined like spider webs. I'll always remember the things she said. They were so wide, she opened my eyes, and I'll never close again. Oh, how she sighed when she stopped a cigarette. I felt compelled to inquire for success. How do? How can you be so in love with yourself? Tell me please, 'cause I need help. She said, every time you succeed, there's an old man somewhere seething, and spite's as good a reason to take his power. When you hate the body you are in, oh love you're acting just for him, as he counts his gold and green in his ivory tower.
They were just talking about 2 million copies sold, or 20 million copies sold? 12 million copies sold.
I fear his lines, his pockets locked, so take that rage and bottle up and put a drop into his cup of wine.
Our fear, it lines his pockets, love. Our fear lines his fucking pockets. Love yourself. Don't give your money to weird old men who use your insecurities to get them a 7th house. Fuck that. I don't wear makeup One, because I don't have the energy to put it on, I guess. Two, because I want to help other people love themselves, sure, but help other people see what it is to just be aging, to just be a carbon-based life form that's just growing, that's just existing. As women, we don't have to be existing just to be sexualized. Like, we can be humans. We can be people. And then seeing all this, like, I mean, it's been happening for years. Rage in gaming communities over female protagonists. It's like, you know, there's women in the world, right? Like, we exist. You can just be. And I think you should allow yourself the moments you can to not be sexualized. Don't sexualize yourself. Fuck it. Let your fupa hang. That shit protects your organs. Let your body be. Our fear, it lines his pockets. It kills people. I had an eating disorder that I do my best to never go back to. So I've been there. But yeah, I refuse to wear makeup. Because I'm not going to be part of the reason that these crazy, unrealistic expectations are existing. I'm not going to play into them. And I hope you learn to love yourself too. Big forehead and all. It's just more places to get forehead kisses. What do people not understand?
You don't.
Are they jealous they don't get as many forehead kisses? Probably. I'd be jealous too. Don't worry. You'll get your forehead kisses. Franny was stabbing at her laptop. Franny was stabbing at her laptop computer angrily. Hungrily. Jeez. Redo. Franny was stabbing at her laptop computer hungrily, planning the next phase in Sable's transformation of the eating habits of the Western world. Sable had bought her the machine as a personal present. It was very, very expensive, very powerful, and ultra slim. He liked slim things. There's a European outfit we can buy into for the initial toehold. Holdings Incorporated. That'll give us the Liechtenstein tax base. Now, if we channel funds out through the Caymans into Luxembourg and from there to Switzerland, we could pay for the factories in, but Sable was no longer listening. He was remembering the exclusive little restaurant. It had occurred to him that he had never seen so many rich people so hungry. Sable grinned, the honest, open grin that goes with job satisfaction, perfect and pure. He was just killing time until the main event, but he was killing it in such exquisite ways. Time and sometimes people. And he's a literal demon. Don't forget to hydrate. Sometimes he was called White, or Blanc, or Albus, or Chalky, or Weiss, or Snowy, or any one of the 100 other names. We're no longer talking about Sable. This is page break. I feel like I want to be able to tell you guys when there's a page break. Should I just say PB? No. Sometimes he was called White, or Blanc, or Albus, or Chalky, or Weiss, or Snowy, or any one of the 100 other names. His skin was pale, his hair a faded blonde, his eyes light gray. He was somewhere in his 20s at a casual glance, and a casual glance was all anyone ever gave him. He was almost entirely unmemorable. Unlike his two colleagues, he could never settle down in any one job for very long. Been there. He had had all manner of interesting jobs in lots of interesting places. He had worked at the Chernobyl power station, and at Windscale, and at 3 Mile Island, always in minor jobs that weren't very important. He had been a minor but valued member of a number of scientific research establishments. He had helped to design the petrol engine and plastics and the ring pull can. So I'm assuming he's a demon. He could turn his hand to anything. Nobody really noticed him. He was unobtrusive. His presence was cumulative. If you thought about it carefully, you could figure out he had to have been doing something, had to have been somewhere. Maybe he even spoke to you, but he was easy to forget. Was Mr. White? At this time, he was working as deckhand on an oil tanker, heading toward Tokyo. The captain was drunk in his cabin, the first mate was in the head, the second mate was in the galley. That was pretty much it for the crew. The ship was almost completely automated. There wasn't much a person could do. However, if a person just happened to press the emergency cargo release switch on the bridge, the automatic systems would take care of releasing huge quantities of black sludge into the sea. Millions of tons of crude oil, with devastating effect on the birds, fish, vegetation, animals, and humans of the region. Of course, there were dozens of fail-safe interlocks and foolproof safety backups, but what the hell, there always were. Afterwards, there was a huge amount of argument as to exactly whose fault it was. In the end, it was left unresolved. The blame was apportioned equally. Neither the captain, the first mate, nor the second mate ever worked again. For some reason, nobody gave much of a thought to Seaman White, who was already halfway to Indonesia on a tramp steamer piled high with rusting metal barrels of particularly toxic weed killer. So, yeah, I'm gonna reaffirm my belief that he's probably a demon. Page break. And there was another. He was in the square of Kumbola Land, and he was in the restaurants, and he was in the fish, and in the air, and in the barrels of weed killer. He was on the roads, and in houses, and in palaces, and in hovels. There was nowhere that he was a stranger, and there was no getting away from him. He was doing what he did best, and what he was doing was what he was. He was not waiting, he was working. Harriet Dowling returned home with her baby, which, on the advice of Sister Faith Frolics, who was more persuasive than Sister Mary, and with the telephonic agreement of her husband, she had named Warlock. Okay, so the Dowlings were at the Satanist church. They were the ones who were supposed to get the Antichrist. But the Antichrist didn't get switched with the Dowling baby. The Antichrist got switched with the Young's baby, Deidre and Mr. Young. And their baby went to the Dowlings. So the Dowlings baby is just, we don't know what happened to the Dowlings baby. The book said to use our imagination and to not really think about it. But one of the sisters tried to get the Youngs to name their kid something devilish, satanic, because that sister knew that the Youngs had the Antichrist, because that's where she thought the Antichrist was supposed to go. I hope you're following me. The Dowlings don't have the Antichrist, the Youngs do, and the Dowlings ended up naming, the Dowlings have the Youngs baby, because it was switched out, and the Dowlings ended up naming that baby Warlock. The cultural attaché returned home a week later and pronounced the baby the spit of his side of the family. He also had his secretary advertise in The Lady for a nanny. Crowley had seen Mary Poppins on television one Christmas. Indeed, behind the scenes, Crowley had had a hand in most television, although it was on the invention of the game show that he truly prided himself. He toyed with the idea of a hurricane as an effective and incredibly stylish way of disposing of the queue of nannies that would certainly form or possibly stack up in a holding pattern. outside the cultural attache's Regent's Park residence. He contented himself with a wildcat tube strike, and when the day came, only one nanny turned up. She wore a knit tweed suit and discreet pearl earrings. Something about her might have said nanny, but it said it in an undertone of the sort employed by British butlers in a certain type of American film. It also coughed discreetly and muttered that she could well be the sort of nanny who advertises unspecified but strangely explicit services in certain magazines. Her flat shoes crunched up the gravel drive, and a gray dog padded silently by her. White flecks of saliva dripping from its jaw, its eyes glinted scarlet, and it glanced from side to side hungrily. She reached the heavy wooden door, smiled to herself, a brief satisfied flicker, and rang the bell. It donged gloomily. The door was opened by a butler, as they say of the old school, asterisk, a night school just off the Tottenham Court Road, run by an elderly actor who had played butlers and gentlemen's gentlemen in films and television and on the stage since the 1920s. "I am the nanny Ashtoreth," she told him, and this, she continued while the gray dog at her side eyed the butler, carefully working out, perhaps, where it would bury the bones, "is Rover." She left the dog in the garden and passed her interview with flying colors, and Mrs. Dowling led the nanny to see her new charge. She smiled unpleasantly. "What a delightful child," she said. "He'll be wanting a little tricycle soon." By one of those coincidences, another new member of staff arrived the same afternoon. He was the gardener, and as it turned out, he was amazingly good at his job. No one quite worked out why this should be the case, since he never seemed to pick up a shovel and made no effort to rid the garden of the sudden flocks of birds that filled it and settled all over him at every opportunity. He just sat in the shade while around him the residents' gardens bloomed and bloomed. Warlock used to come down to see him when he was old enough to toddle, and Nanny was doing whatever it was she did on her afternoons off. "This here's Brother Slug," the gardener would tell him, "and this tiny little critter is Sister Potato Weevil. Remember, Warlock, as you walk your way through the highways and the byways of life's rich and fulsome path, to have love and reverence for all living things. Nanny says that living things is fit only to be ground under my heels, Mr. Francis," said little Warlock, stroking Brother Slug, and then wiping his hand conscientiously on his Kermit the Frog overall. "You don't listen to that woman," Francis would say. "You listen to me." At night, Nanny Ashtoreth sang nursery rhymes to Warlock. "Oh, the grand old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men, he marched them up to the top of the hill, and crushed all the nations of the world, and brought them under the rule of Satan our master. And this little piggy went to Hades, this little piggy stayed home. This little piggy ate raw and steaming human flesh, this little piggy violated virgins. And this little piggy clambered over a heap of dead bodies to get to the top. Brother Francis, the gardener, says that I must selflessly practice virtue and love to all living things," said Warlock. "You don't listen to that man, darling," the nanny would whisper as she tucked him into his little bed. "You listen to me." And so it went. The arrangement worked perfectly. A no-score win. Nanny Ashtoreth bought the child a little tricycle but could never persuade him to ride it inside the house, and he was scared of Rover. In the background, Crowley and Aziraphale met on the tops of buses and in art galleries and at concerts, compared notes, and smiled. When Warlock was 6, his nanny left, taking Rover with her. The gardener handed in his resignation on the same day. Neither of them left with quite the same spring in their step with which... What the shit's going on the screen?
That's all, folks.
Warlock now found himself being educated by 2 tutors. Mr. Harrison taught him about Attila the Hun, Vlad Dracul, and the darkness intrinsicate in the human spirit. Asterisk. He avoided mentioning that Attila was nice to his mother or that Vlad Dracul was punctilious about saying his prayers every day. He tried to teach Warlock how to make rabble-rousing political speeches to sway the hearts and minds of multitudes. Mr. Cortese taught him about Florence Nightingale, asterisk, except for the bits about syphilis, Abraham Lincoln, and the appreciation of art. He tried to teach him about free will, self-denial, and doing unto others as you would wish them to do to you. They both read to the child extensively from the Book of Revelation. Despite their best efforts, Warlock showed a regrettable tendency to be good at maths. Neither of his tutors was entirely satisfied with his progress. When Warlock was 10, he liked baseball. He liked plastic toys and that transformed into other plastic toys indistinguishable from the first set of plastic toys, except to the trained eye. He liked his stamp collection. He liked banana-flavored bubblegum. He liked comics and cartoons, and his BMX bike. Hot take, banana-flavored Laffy Taffy is the best Laffy Taffy, and I'm not a candy person. I don't like sweets. I like chips and french fries, but not sweets. I'm not a desserts or candy person. However, watermelon Jolly Ranchers and banana Laffy Taffy, I do partake. Crowley was troubled. They were in the cafeteria of the British Museum, another refuge for all weary foot soldiers of the Cold War. At the table to their left, two ramrod straight Americans in suits were surreptitiously handing over a briefcase full of deniable dollars to a small dark woman in sunglasses. At the table on their right, the deputy head of MI7 and the local KGB section officer argued over who got to keep the receipt for the tea and buns. Yep. Crowley finally said what he had not even dared to think for the last decade. If you ask me, Crowley said to his counterpart, he's too bloody normal. Aziraphale popped another deviled egg into his... I will fuck up a plate of deviled eggs. Aziraphale popped another deviled egg into his mouth and washed it down with coffee. He dabbed his lips with a paper napkin. It's my good influence, he beamed, or rather, credit where credit's due, that of my little team. Crowley shook his head. I'm taking that into account. Look, by now he should be trying to warp the world around him to his own desires, shaping it in his own image, that kind of stuff. Well, not actually trying. He'll do it without even knowing it. Have you seen any evidence of that happening? Well, no, but by now he should be a powerhouse of raw force, is he? Well, not as far as I've noticed, but he's too normal, Crowley drummed, his fingers on the table. I don't like it. There's something wrong, I just can't put my finger on it. It's not the Antichrist. Aziraphale helped himself to Crowley's slice of angel cake. Well, he's a growing boy, and, of course, there's been the heavenly influence in his life. Crowley sighed. I just hope he'll know how to cope with the hellhound, that's all. Aziraphale raised one eyebrow. Hellhound? On his 11th birthday, I received a message from hell last night. No, on his 11th birthday, I received a message from hell last night. The message had come during The Golden Girls, one of Crowley's favorite television programs. Rose had taken 10 minutes to deliver what could have been quite a brief communication, and by the time non-infernal service was restored, Crowley had quite lost the thread of the plot. They're sending him a hellhound to pad by his side and guard him from all harm. Biggest one they've got. Won't people remark on the sudden appearance of a huge black dog? His parents, for a start. Crowley stood up suddenly, treading on the foot of a Bulgarian cultural attaché, who was talking animatedly to the keeper of Her Majesty's antiques. Nobody's going to notice anything out of the ordinary. It's reality, Angel, and a young warlock can do what he wants to that, whether he knows it or not. When does it turn up then, this dog? Does it have a name? I told you, on his 11th birthday, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It'll sort of home in on him. He's supposed to name it himself. It's very important that he names it himself. It gives its purpose. It'll be killer or terror or stalks by night, I expect. Are you going to be there? Asked the angel nonchalantly. Wouldn't miss it for the world, said Crowley. I do hope there's nothing too wrong with the child. We'll see how he reacts to the dog anyway. That should tell us something. I hope he'll send it back. Or be frightened of it. If he does name it, we've lost. He'll have all his powers and Armageddon is just around the corner. I think, said Aziraphale, sipping his wine, which had just ceased to be a slightly vinegary Beaujolais. and had become a quite acceptable but rather surprised Chateau Lafayette, 1875. I think I'll see you there. Okay. So we just finished the first part of that book, which was called 11 Years Ago. Now, next part is called Wednesday. I know, you can't see it. Hold on. Wednesday. So, it's been a friggin' blast. It really truly has. I was in a really bad mood. I was not okay. And then I started streaming and I read and I talked, and this really helped. So, thank you. And I will be seeing you soon.